This is Group 3 members Dua, Juan, and Destiny. The topic is, should antibiotics be used in food animal production? And these are the against slides. Context by Destiny. Some research has shown that putting antibiotics in animal feed and humans eating the animal meat is not good for consumption. If farmers were to overuse antibiotics, it can increase resistant bacteria, which will then lead to the bacteria multiplying, causing us to get infected and at risk of dying. As you can see on the chart, it says antibiotic resistant. You can see how the cow has bacteria and is being given antibiotics to kill the bacteria. But not all bacteria is killed, and it will eventually lead to multiplying, spreading on animal products, produce, prepared food, and animal poop. It all leads to people getting exposed to infections and ending up in the hospital. Ethical aspects, also by Destiny. There have been many ethical aspects for the use of antibiotics, but there is an organization that is very against it, and they are the WHO, also known as the World Health Organization. They recommend farmers and food industries to stop using antibiotics. They want to cut down the use of antibiotics on animal feed. They say this because some of the antibiotics are meant for human medicine. Using too many antibiotics on animals lowers the human medicine, which is a big issue. Reducing the use of antibiotics means we can have more human medicine. FDA is another ethical aspect because they banned using medical antibiotics without the approval of a veterinarian. Now farmers have to wait for the approval and for the veterinarians to inject the medical antibiotics. The reason why the FDA did this was to prevent anything from spreading, because if farmers were to do it on their own, they could overuse since they aren't experienced in that area, which will then lead to people getting sick and possibly dying.
Hello, my name is Juan Carlos Orozco, and I'll be discussing the next two slides. Cultural importance against antibiotic use. So, antibiotics is a big problem throughout. It could be a major problem throughout the livestock industry, creating antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So basically, throughout the course of application of antibiotics, the bacteria that is receiving the antibiotic constantly is evolving and finding ways to become immune to those antibiotics. And so, like I said, the creation of antibiotic resistant bacteria is a big and major problem that is really important for people to know and to really form their opinion about the use of antibiotic use. So, one of the first bullet points, it is harder to treat. Obviously, it is harder to treat because it is constantly evolving, and we do not know the type of antibiotic that needs to be able that needs to be able that needs to be applicated in order to treat the antibiotic resistant bacteria. It's kind of the name. It's kind of redundant. I know I'm saying antibiotic resistant, so obviously the funny thing is the only way to treat an antibiotic resistant bacteria is to let it resolve itself in the body or with more antibiotics, but it's like feeding gas to a flame. Like I said before, it is constantly evolving. With the addition of more antibiotics, it is learning and evolving constantly, constantly evolving and gaining mechanisms of resistance. So these mechanisms of resistance is just basically taking in the DNA structure of the antibiotics, and such as uh, I can't pronounce it. Sorry. Uh, it takes in certain structures and basically mechanizes them for resistance. Antibiotics are unorthodox. A big point that was brought up to me by the CDC is that antibiotics were not invented, but they were discovered. So, yeah, and it requires multiple regulations. So antibiotic use, sorry, throughout antibiotic use, It must be certified by veterinarians. This was a law passed called the VFD in 2017 by the U.S. FDA, and so basically it's just a law saying that all antibiotics must go through a discourse of authorized by veterinarians and applicated by veterinarians. Overuse can increase both indirect and direct resistant bacteria, resulting in antibiotic resistant organisms. So that's just a basic overall scheme of the cultural importance. So I do believe it is very important for people worldwide to understand the effects of antibiotics and what they can produce. Antibiotic resistant bacteria is very important to have a basic understanding of. It can be life threatening, resulting in multiple hospital trips. And overall, I think it is a very key factor in picking bias towards developing your argument if you should be for or against antibiotic use. My name is Juan Carlos Orozco again. I'm going to be talking about current events and why we should be against antibiotics. So the CDC created the AR Solutions Initiative, investing in the nation. Uh, this is basically the CDC coming together and raising awareness and donating money to stop the use of antibiotics throughout the livestock production industry. So what they basically want to do is get more awareness towards bigger groups and basically invest in the future of antibiotic resistant organisms and basically ending it. One second. The next current event happening is the One Health organization. Antibiotics can stop working, and they need to find a proper way to use them or completely stop using them before they become obsolete. So antibiotics do can if there is antibiotic resistant bacteria, the only way to treat that is with more antibiotics. Hopefully, you find a weakness in the mechanism, and that does affect the antibiotic resistant bacteria. The FDA, so 2017 policies made antibiotics illegal to implement without authorization from a vet. This is the Veterinary Feed Directive, allowed all veterinarians authorization and framework for prescriptions. So, but like I said before, the VFD is very important, and it does set the tone for antibiotic use and production in the production of livestock industry. It does set it does set a hinge. So uh, ranchers and farmers, they're not just implementing antibiotics off the charts, therefore really endangering the animals. Finally, World Health Organization. This was a very interesting global action plan on antimicrobial resistance. So it's a 5-step procedure, really interesting. So step one is to improve awareness and understanding of antimicrobial resistance. And the following is to strengthen surveillance and research. Step three, to reduce incidence of infection, to optimize the use of antimicrobial medicines, which is step four, and to ensure sustainable investment in countering antimicrobial resistance. So I think it's very important to take these 5 steps in consideration, and it's a global action plan, so it can be implemented in the future. And so basically, all these groups are against antibiotics and the use for livestock production. Thank you. Duo will take it from here.
My name is Dua, and I will be going over the informed opinion of our group. As mentioned in the slides dedicated for our for antibiotic use in the food industry argument, we mentioned how overpopulation is a problem. In fact, this is a simple knowledge of the world that wouldn't be hard to assume. Adding on the fact that we have a constant cycle of always wanting more, we as humans continuously consume without considering if we have the adequate resources to do so. So with the crowding of overpopulation, we see antibiotics in the animal food production industry as necessary to provide for communities. We find that this would be a better way of providing rather than not having enough to feed everyone. Another point to bring up would be that while focusing on the welfare of livestock, there are many factors where antibiotics can actually be beneficial. It is proven on multiple accounts that antibiotics not only decrease diseases and injuries throughout the herd, it actually improves overall production. To start off, by having these antibiotics in the animals, it helps them fight any disease or injuries they may be suffering from. With the use of antibiotics, they also prevent these occurrences from happening, which means a healthier food supply. By finding ways to keep these animals from staying healthy longer, they can survive longer as well as providing more for us. Another reason why antibiotics play a big role in the health of these animals would be that by preventing them from getting sick, it allows the animals to consume less. In this case, it would be better for us in the sense that we can get more use out of our food supply while also extending the use of the food we provide for them. The longer they stay healthy, the less food and resources they will consume, meaning we can use those resources for other animals around them. With all that's been said, our group has decided to side for the use of antibiotics and against the side of choosing not to use antibiotics with the argument of antibiotic resistance. We see it as a more dependable input to increase production on the supply curve. As for our references, we have listed them all out in the following slide. As you can see, we've taken sources from multiple places. Most of them were found from .edu or .gov sites. From personal experience, I found that the cvc.gov sites were the most useful as they included lots of information regarding the topic of antibiotics by going into depth and breaking it down into categories. The fact that it provided links to specific organizations or terms they were talking about definitely made that much easier to navigate around as well. We didn't provide much of videos or clips in our slides, but within our references there is a link to a YouTube video. The video was too long to put in, considering it went over the 30-second time limit, But to sum it up, the video discusses details about antibiotic resistance and was used to help argue this point of our being against the use of antibiotics in the food supply. Topics mentioned throughout the video were about the VFD and their input on antibiotic use, when a cow would be considered for antibiotic use, how they can build a resistance to it, and so on. Overall, we found all our resources to help not only in fulfilling this group assignment, but in forming our opinion as a group as well. Thank you.